Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing a video that I honestly didn't know if I was gonna do, just because it is such a touchy and sensitive and honestly a very personal subject. I feel like most people who are on YouTube or involved in YouTube are aware of the video that I think 3 or 4 days ago, by the time this is up, Shane Dawson uploaded of sort of the return, a discussion of the recovery and story of a very well-known and controversial YouTuber, Eugenia Cooney. Now, to give sort of a little backstory, Eugenia Cooney was a beauty, alternative lifestyle, gothic cosplay channel. She was always very bright and very exuberant. She was someone who for a long time I watched for her alternative content and for her openness. You know, even despite all of the controversy surrounding her, she always seemed to be a very sweet and sincere young lady. However, one thing that was very obvious in the content on her channel was the fact that from outward appearance, she looked to be suffering from a very severe case of an eating disorder, whether it was anorexia or bulimia or any other kind. You could really see the physical manifestation of what was happening to her body. And sort of during her channel, going back and forth, a multitude of white knight YouTubers such as Onision sort of capitalized upon her insecurity, upon this perceived eating disorder, and they would make videos discussing about how she was going to pass away, how if she didn't get help, she was, you know, all these things were going to happen, about how obvious and horrible her deterioration was. And while yes, there is that, they did not necessarily, I feel like, especially with Onision, it was a case of taking this controversy and taking the insecurities and taking the suffering and the mental health of someone else and marketing on it. Several months ago, Eugenia did make I believe it was Instagram or Twitter, she made a comment that said she was going to be pulling away from YouTube for a while and seeking help. Then enter the Shane Dawson video, which then also incurred a video. Her first name is Jaclyn. I'm not familiar with her. Enter that video, kind of combating combating the narrative that Shane put out in his video. Now, what I want to talk about today is less an analysis or my thoughts and my opinions on Shane's video. I sort of want to give some thoughts and opinions and insights to the importance of mental health representation. Firstly, I am so stinking proud of Eugenia. It is so hard to get help for something like this. When you are dealing with something that is your mental health, and when you're dealing with something that is an eating disorder, it is so hard to get help. It is literally like someone with a legit addiction getting help for that. I am so proud and so happy for her that she actually is at the point of where she is getting better, and where she is, instead of a decline, is now in at least even the early stages of recovery. That is beyond wonderful. And one thing that sort of I want to iterate is, in this whole Shane Dawson and Jaclyn and all things like that, and these videos coming about and people, giving their experience and everything like that, I feel like one thing that we forget. whenever you have someone who, a very popular YouTube, she's got over 1 million subscribers, or, a famous whatever, we seem to forget that, in all honesty, they owe us nothing when it comes to your mental health. And honestly, your health on a whole, it is very personal. It's something that's for them. And so when it comes to people criticizing or talking or discussing or her whole situation becoming this like topic of videos, and I understand I'm sitting here talking about this topic, but in the grand scheme of things and in all honesty, she doesn't owe anyone anything, any kind of explanation, any kind of whatever. If she wanted to go off, do her thing, and then come back and start filming videos, sure, there'd be hue and cry because people are very entitled, but it's her story to tell. It's her mental health. It's her, her personal information that she doesn't need to be putting out there. And so when you had Shane's video, which is, it's a documentary, a full-length documentary, but it is I appreciated the amount of empathy there was in the video. I appreciate the resources that were given, and let me just say, it is a wonderful thing when you're talking about mental illness or anything like this, providing the information to anyone who might be watching that, hey, here's this resource, here's this number, here's this site that you can go to if you feel like you or someone you love is having that problem. That is wonderful. And then I feel like, this is me personally, I feel like Shane put out his video, which was sort of this, the fall, the bottom, and then coming to the top and sort of going, a little bit, into where she is now and why she ended up getting help, and a little bit in that. And then I feel like, this is me personally, I feel like Jaclyn's video was a little bit of, oh, well, Shane made this video, it's now, I need to make a video because we're really the reason she's getting help. It's almost like they didn't want Shane's video to steal, the thunder of them helping her. I honestly feel like if he didn't make a video, she wouldn't have put hers out, because then there wouldn't have been this need to prove that she was the white knight. And I also didn't like the fact that there was so much information, personal information, that was divulged in that video. It's one thing if Eugenia comes out and makes a video and says, hey, I want to talk about this. Let me tell you why I went to get help, or the circumstances behind it, or let me talk about my mother. It's something else when it's someone, whether it's your friend, a close family member, or your partner, to have them come out and make a video and just spill all this stuff out there. That isn't their place. Because when it comes to an eating disorder or any kind of like serious mental health, depression, anxiety, psychosis, all of these things, the nitty-gritty can be so ugly, and it is so personal to each person who has it. We do not have a static experience. It's different to everyone. And like I said, I just feel it was unfair and unwarranted and uncalled for this, like I said, Shane did his, which, I feel like was a bit more of a, putting a very positive, spin on this and making it look like, here's where she was and here is she now, which is great. But then they had this almost like this rebuttal of like, no, it wasn't all sunshine and daisies. It was awful. It was this. And that's good and great, if it was all awful and all whatever, but it's not your right to tell that it was awful. And despite popular opinion, it isn't necessary for YouTubers or famous people to divulge every little thing about their lives. When it comes to mental health on YouTube, I think a part of the falling of the mental health and why the mental health on YouTube can be such a difficult thing to maintain when you are so big on the platform is because people, you know, whether they're drama channels or your subscribers or just people, whatever, you know, who want to know every little nitty gritty thing and every little thing that comes out. They're like, oh, holy heck, you know, there isn't anything left to the imagination. There isn't anything that's just theirs. There's always this digging and this need to know and have everything. When in reality, I mean, it's their life. They don't need to come on and give you a spreadsheet of their past from when they were born to up till now for you to get your satisfaction of being, you know, YouTube is very, very voyeuristic. But no one owes anyone any sort of explanation or any sort of information about their personal life and especially about their struggles and their issues. Now, what is important to remember and understand about this whole situation with Eugenia and why this is so personal and near and dear to my heart and why I think it needs to be seen as, I mean, when I was about 18 years old, I had an eating disorder. I was anorexic at my worst. I tipped the scales at around 92, 93 pounds, and I was eating around 140 to 80 calories a day. People who have eating disorders, they have them for different reasons. Sometimes it's about body image, but that isn't necessarily always the case. Oftentimes it is because of control. Because if you have chaos or certain things coming around you, in the end, you can say, well, at least I control what goes into my body. At least I can control how much I weigh and how much I lose or how much I gain. There is a multitude of reasons and psychology and everything going into this, that this whole situation isn't just this, oh look, she had anorexia, oh look, now she's okay. I used to think about myself kind of like this once an anorexic, always an anorexic, which I don't know whether that's true or not. For my personal experience, I still struggle with my relationship with food. I still see food as not necessarily the enemy, but it's something that I struggle with. I don't see it as like, yes, you're fuel or you're something that, you know, I can indulge in every once in a while. I have gone from being anorexic and I am now working on and fighting through a binge eating disorder. So for me, when it came to food, it was sort of this all or nothing. I'm going to eat, you know, the tiniest minimalist amount and then I'm just gonna like have everything all at once. And so, you know, it's only been for Eugenia just this small amount of recovery, this small amount of her starting to work towards being healthy again. And it, like I said, it isn't something, you know, like a broken leg or like a cold where if you do something, you're like, oh, it's better. No, it can't be. It isn't this like bing, boom, it's cured. It takes a lot of mental power and willpower to overcome these absolutely destructive habits. You know, it is very much like an addiction. You can't just quit it cold turkey. I can't tell you how many times I was like with the binge eating, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna not do this. That's not how it works. And it's also especially difficult because whenever you're dealing with something that's an eating disorder, it's not like cigarettes or like alcohol where you can just be like, all right, I'm gonna stop and I'm stepping back from it. Because food is literally something you need to sustain yourself. So every stinking day you are presented with this struggle. You're presented with this enemy, this stumbling block. And it is made even more difficult with the modern day perception of beauty. In all honesty, the beauty we see in movies, in media, magazines, TV, the beauty community it really honestly promotes this unhealthy lifestyle and promotes the idea of eating disorders, of, you know, oh, if I don't look this way, I'm imperfect or I'm somehow less valuable. So I'm going to do this so that I can reach that unattainable goal that society has set as the normal standard for men and women. This is so much more than just a case of, oh, a YouTuber made a video about it and then another YouTuber made a video about it and yay, it's so great, she's coming back and she's better. There's so much more, and we really do need to have a healthier representation of mental health here on YouTube. Being a creator, and especially a creator who has such a high following as Eugenia, the pressures and the anxiety and everything is very conducive to a mental break, or to this idea of, you know, the work fatigue, mental fatigue, and empathy fatigue, and all of these things are very real. And we honestly need to appreciate the gravity of what this means and appreciate the amazing triumph of her seeking help. I cannot express to you how terrible, how harmful, how difficult the suffering you have with having this kind of disorder. It rules your life, it destroys your relationships, and there is so much going on with her that what she needs right now is the support, is, you know, whether she decides to come back to YouTube or not. What really matters is that she is healthy and happy with herself. The real reason I feel Shane's video is important is, yes, the documentation of her finally getting better and at least working towards it, because it's been a long time. I used to watch her videos, probably 4 or 5 videos. They were my inspiration. I would watch her do outfit videos and I would think, oh, I wish I still had that level of control. I wish I could control myself to eat so little that I could lose this weight. She is young, she is getting better, and she has so much more out there for her, so much more to live, so much more to do. And this is good, and the whole thing about him doing his video, part of what is that it's sort of fighting the stigma and the sort of in the dark about like eating disorders and mental health and everything like that, because there's so much stigmatism, there's so much misinformation and things that just, you know, people who have these issues aren't being represented in a way that is conducive to recovery. A large part of me is still fighting within myself. You would not know from, not saying I'm fat, not saying I'm chubby, but you would not know from how I look that I was anorexic or do have certain anorexic mental tendencies, because we have this preconceived notion and we have this problem of it having to look like Eugenia for it to be real. Anorexia and mental disorder and eating disorders comes in all shapes and sizes. They come in women, they come in men, they come in everything in between. And what's important is opening up this dialogue, opening up this misconception of the fact that it has to get to her point for it to be, okay, this is a thing, this is a problem, and for those, not that those stories do not need to be told, but for those sort of stories being the only example when it is really a sliding scale. That is one extreme. There are all sorts of other levels that need to be discussed and realized. I honestly feel like I'm sort of rambling at this point. I cannot tell you how happy I am for the fact that she is making this step forward, because like I said, it is hard when you have an eating disorder. You can't just, you don't just walk up to someone, you're like, hey, that's not what it is. There's a lot of self-loathing, a lot of denial, a lot of just this inward destructiveness. And to see her finally coming outward, whether it's public or not, I just really hope that she is able to continue to do what she needs to do to be healthy, and so importantly, be happy with herself. It's a hard place to be, and I think, like I said, more important than, Shane Dawson doing another documentary, or more important than any of the YouTube drama, is the fact that this is opening up a dialogue for mental health on YouTube and mental health on a whole. And it is marking a new era for Eugenia, for her to move forward with her life and to be able to do the things that she needs to really grow and progress. And honestly, that's the thing that I'm the most happy about. As someone who is a recovering anorexic and binge eater, to see someone else start moving forward is very beautiful and very emotional. I think I've done enough rambling at this point. Obviously, if any of you have any sort of mental health, are struggling with an eating disorder, depression, anxiety, there are places you can go. There are resources. You are not alone. You do not have to deal with it alone. And there are other people who will empathize with you and help you. If you ever need an ear or a shoulder to cry on, I am here. I will also leave resources and everything down below for you as well. Thank you guys so much for watching. I love you, and as always, keep it real. Mwah.